What's up, YouTube Zero here, and today I have an awesome Garchomp EX plus Snorlax deck in Pokemon TCG Pocket. In this video, I'll go over each of the individual cards I have in this deck. I'll talk about why each of them are amazing and why this deck combination is amazing, and why some of these cards are in this deck and why, when paired up with each other, they're even better. Before I get into it, I do want to say, if you do enjoy this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more Pokemon TCG content. I do a bunch of other video games, so feel free to check those out as well. Thank you so much in advance for doing so. I do really appreciate it. Without further ado, let's talk about this Garchomp EX plus Snorlax deck. First, the Garchomp line. This is going to be Garchomp EX. It is a fighting type Pokemon, so go with the fighting type Garchomp line. That's going to be Gibble with the fighting energy. You're going to do tackle for 20. Gabite, 1 energy for its attack, which is going to do 30 damage, Sharp Scythe. And then finally, you're going to have Garchomp EX, which is going to have linear attack, which allows you to do 50 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon, which is awesome. You can either attack the opponent in the active slot, or you can attack any Pokemon on the bench of your enemy. This is going to be very nice, especially towards the end game, and is going to pair really well with Cyrus. I will talk about that in a second. And then the basic move, the Dragon Claw for 3 energy, which is going to deal 100 hit points. Next, a couple of Snorlaxes. Utilize the Snorlax that's 4 energy for Collapse that deals 100 damage. It's also going to put you to sleep, but that's why I got Lumberry in this deck, which I'll talk about in a second as well. But the Snorlax is going to be the Snorlax that has the Collapse for 100 that's going to put you to sleep for 4 energy. Next, this pairs really well with Berry. Berry is absolutely awesome for Snorlax. Snorlax normally requiring 4 energy for its Collapse attack. Berry is going to require 2 less energy for that attack. So if you do have Berry and you do have Snorlax, all you need are 2 energy on Snorlax, play Berry, and you can attack with Collapse. So that's going to be awesome, doing 100 damage for only 2 energy. Now, Lumberry. Lumberry is also extremely important for Snorlax. What Lumberry does is it's going to get rid of that sleep. It is a Pokemon tool that you can equip on a Pokemon. And this is going to be great for Snorlax because after you attack with Collapse, deal 100 damage, Snorlax is going to fall asleep. What Lumberry is going to do is it's going to cure Snorlax of that sleep. And what Lumberry reads is at the end of each turn, if the Pokemon this card is attached to is affected by any special conditions, it recovers from all of them and discard this card. So it is a one-time use Lumberry, but it's going to allow Snorlax to recover from its sleep. So Snorlax combined with Berry and Lumberry is going to be absolutely awesome. You put Snorlax in the active slot with 2 energy, you equip a Lumberry on it, you utilize Berry, and you're going to be able to deal 100 damage to your opponent with essentially no drawbacks, because you're going to heal from sleep, and you're only going to require 2 energy to deal 100 damage. That's absolutely awesome and can really give you the edge in battle, especially starting out the battle, that you may need to take out one of your opponent's lesser Pokemon, the non-evolved Pokemon, dealing that 100 damage, taking them out. So that's absolutely awesome. Now, of course, the staples of pretty much any deck: Professor's Research, which you draw 2 cards, and Pokeball, which allows you to draw a basic Pokemon. They're pretty much staples so you can get to your Pokemon quicker. But what this is going to do, Pokeball, I also have Pokemon Communication. Those two pair pretty nicely with each other. If you already have two of your basic Pokemon out, say you have your Gible in the active slot like I do, and Snorlax on the bench, you utilize Pokeball to get another basic Pokemon, but in reality, I really don't need another basic Pokemon. What Pokemon Communication is going to do, it allows me to put one of the cards in my hand, Pokemon cards in my hand, one of the actual Pokemon in my hand, back into the deck to draw another random Pokemon card, an actual Pokemon card. So what this is going to do, it's going to allow me to get to my Garchomp evolutions quicker, hopefully anyway. So I have two of those to try and get to my Garchomp evolution quicker. This deck is going to be about having Snorlax out there and having Garchomp EX out there. That's how you're going to win matches, and it does really work really well. Professor's Research, Pokeball are going to get you those cards in your hand quicker. If you don't have the evolution line for Garchomp that you need, you utilize Pokemon Communication to randomly draw a Pokemon from your deck by putting one from your hand that you don't necessarily need back into your deck. So that's going to be a great combination of support cards as well, so you can get to Garchomp as quickly as possible. What's great about Garchomp and the linear attack is it pairs insanely well with Cyrus. If the enemy has, or opponent has, a Pokemon on the bench that you want to get to, you can utilize linear attack, damage that Pokemon, and then draw that Pokemon out with Cyrus on the next turn, so you can utilize Dragon Claw on that Pokemon. That combination is going to deal 150 damage to whatever Pokemon that is. So let's just say Palkia is on my opponent's bench and it does have 150 HP. I utilize linear attack to damage that Pokemon. Now it's down to 100. I draw it out on the next turn with Cyrus, and then I utilize Dragon Claw to finish it off. It's an absolutely awesome combo and has won me a couple of matches by doing that. I love Garchomp. Snorlax is also great because you can get Snorlax. If you're lucky enough to get Berry, you can get Snorlax in that active spot and play it extremely quickly, getting a lot of damage on an opponent really quickly, if not finishing off that opponent. What's also great about Snorlax is even if you can't pull Berry right away, Snorlax has 140 HP. It's going to be there to tank for a little while you might be able to build up your Garchomp EX on the bench. So maybe you're just in one of those matches where you can't get your Berry right away, but you are able to maybe build up your Gible, Gabite, and Garchomp EX on the bench while Snorlax is taking the hits for you. Snorlax isn't an EX Pokemon, so if you do lose Snorlax, you are only going to lose 1 point, so it's not the end of the world. Like I just mentioned, having Garchomp in that active slot is awesome because you can deal damage to a Pokemon on the bench, or you can deal damage to the Pokemon in the active slot. Garchomp has a lot of ways of damaging your opponent and finishing off your opponent's Pokemon, so Garchomp EX is awesome. This combination, although they don't have any synergies with each other, does work really well in that regards. Snorlax can start off the damage by getting into that active slot, utilizing Berry, so Snorlax doesn't have to utilize a lot of energy to deal 100 damage. If you're lucky, the opponent has some form of easier Pokemon to knock out in that slot, so you can get the point advantage. But even if it doesn't, 100 damage to an opponent's EX Pokemon is really going to cripple that opponent's Pokemon to where your Garchomp can easily come in and finish them off. 100 is going to knock most EX Pokemon down to the point where 50 damage may actually be enough to finish off that EX Pokemon. And if not, only a couple of 50 damages with your linear attack might be enough to finish them off while you're building up that final energy for Dragon Claw so you can deal 100 damage. I absolutely love this combination of Garchomp EX and Snorlax for several reasons. Again, I just mentioned Snorlax, even though just looking at Snorlax, it doesn't look like it's going to be great. You utilize a couple of support cards and Pokemon Tool to make Snorlax even better. While Snorlax you put into the active slot, it may be a while before you get 4 energy. If you're lucky enough to draw Berry, it's going to be 2 energy and you're dealing 100 damage. If you are lucky enough to pull that Lumberry, then you're not even going to have to fall asleep in order to do that 100 damage, which is absolutely awesome. You can do this, either finish off an opponent's weak Pokemon or do significant damage to an EX Pokemon while you're building up Garchomp on the bench. You're going to have to, of course, evolve Gible and Gabite, which isn't awful. And then you get Garchomp, which can either utilize linear attack to finish off a weakened Pokemon in the active slot if you haven't built up your energy yet. Or you can utilize linear attack to attack a Pokemon on the opponent's bench with linear attack, then draw it out with Cyrus. Or if you have been able to build up the energy on your Garchomp EX, utilize Dragon Claw to finish off a Pokemon in the opponent's active slot. There are a lot of ways to win with this deck because honestly, even if you start off with Gible in the active slot, Gible, Gabite, and Garchomp can win a match single-handedly. I've had several matches where I haven't even had to put my Snorlax in because the Gible, Gabite, Garchomp EX line was able to win the match for me by itself with just how powerful that line is. Gible may not be too powerful, it's pretty standard for a basic Pokemon. However, Gabite only requiring 1 energy for 30 damage is a nice step up. And then putting Garchomp on top of your Gabite, even if you haven't put all energy on your Gabite, maybe you were investing some in Snorlax on the bench, you can still do a lot of damage with linear attack if the opponent isn't expecting it, or if they're trying to build up Pokemon on the bench. For example, if the opponent wants to get a Gyarados, Magikarp is not a strong Pokemon. Having very weak HP, you can easily take out a Magikarp on the bench. As you can see in this match, although I didn't need to take it out, there's a Zubat on the bench that only has 50 HP. That's another Pokemon that I could have just as easily attacked with linear attack and taken it out in a split second, not allowing my opponent to build up what he or she wanted to build up. So again, Garchomp is epic. Combined with Snorlax, this is a fun deck to have. I loved utilizing this, and if y'all put this together, I'm sure you're going to love it just as much as I did. Let me know in the comments section if you've built a deck similar to this one. Do you have a Garchomp EX Snorlax combination? Or have you not thought about combining these two Pokemon? But after this video, are you going to combine them? Let me know in the comments section. I'm interested to hear your combination of Garchomp and Snorlax. What does your Garchomp EX deck look like? Garchomp is one of my favorite Pokemon, so I'm always looking for new deck builds for Garchomp. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Again, feel free to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. It does really help out me and my channel. Thank you so much in advance for doing so, and until next time, peace.